So with our handsome Mr. Z, what I was thinking of trying to work on a little bit is working a little bit with the threshold of the door as well. So, oops, hopefully we don't get stuck. Good job. Of course, I rolled my snack by accident and it went right under the camera, the tripod, and thankfully he didn't take the camera with him. So, ready? Find it. So I know a lot of times we have discussed, trying to set up our dogs for success, work well under their threshold, so like within their comfort range before they get too overwhelmed or too excited. There may be moments though where you are trying your darndest and no matter what you've done, like the babe is still struggling. I would highly recommend to make sure, like we discussed a little bit in the previous video, is just make sure his needs are being met throughout some of the time throughout the day. So this does not mean that I know, for example, you're not going to go out and go for like a 13-mile run with him. But if, let's say, for example, it's been kind of a very busy day. There's been lots of activities with the kids. There's been, after school things and work during the day. Not saying you must, but I know for some folks, having, let's say, for example, a dog walker that may come and even just work with the dog in your own yard. And you could show them skills and tasks you're working on. And then that way they can start to practice those skills within even your dog's comfort range, be it the yard. Sometimes it's very hard. I know for us, we're very busy. We have a lot of commitments. But obviously taking on a gorgeous man like him does require certain outlets for this beautiful boy so he can, again, feel his best. And I'm not saying that you guys are not, again, doing a beautiful job with him because I think he's doing stellar. But I know for some folks it can be, Miss S is like, don't forget about me. Some of the beauties, again, as they're going from one stage to another, you're going to have normal, typical regression. Ready, find it. And we're just, again, doing some finds as I'm spewing some of the information. But you may find for Mr. Handsome is that there's going to be typical normal regression, and then you're dealing with behavioral changes because of adolescence, hormone changes as well, because I know he's going to be waiting to getting altered when you guys are knowing he's good to go from the vet and from the breeder once he's all done maturing. Oh, he says, I dropped it. Ready, find it. Good job. So let's say, and again, I can't get rid of this darn tickle. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to bring my, don't mind me as I'm spewing another cough drop into my mouth. I'm going to grab my drink real quick. I feel like I always end up getting a cold when I have a lot of talking to do, which is really convenient. So let's say, again, I'm going to practice with the doorway over here. I think we can see both of the doors pretty well, so maybe I'll deal with the door that doesn't have the darn curtains, even though they're super cute. They do get a little bit in the way from when we're practicing with our doors. So sometimes it could even be working with thresholds well before you need to actually practice through real doorways. So if, let's say, for example, he's not doing as well with holding back, working a little bit with what's considered like impulse control, so like being able to be functional and holding back when things get exciting or overwhelming. And then being able to contain that excitement is hard for a lot of dogs, let alone people too. So we tend to want instant gratification as well. We order something, we want it delivered like that day. So for dogs, same thing, having to wait for something is challenging, and that can create stress, which is, again, normal to have a little bit of stress in your life. We don't want to have stress to the point where they are failing and then therefore acting out or having more difficulty. But let's say, for example, we might be practicing with our sits or down weights and then work that recall. You could then also implement that to a doorway threshold. And I would recommend that if the real doorway equals way too much excitement, because it tends to equal for right now going to the restroom, going out and playing with maybe his sibling, I would practice first with like a bedroom door or the threshold between the living room to kitchen. And remember that if they can start to implement some of this for doorway thresholds, then you can start to implement it to other zones or situations where typically the dog is getting excited and having to come back from that feeling of woohoo. For some, it could be more anxiety than woohoo. So I would recommend to go at your beauty's rate for comfort range. He's going to grab a quick drink, and then we're going to work a little bit with some of these weights. And then we're going to implement them first with no actual distraction like the doorway. And then we're going to see if we can work our weights here and then at the doorway as well. Oh, he says he found the treat ball, but it's empty. You're so cute today, Mr. Z. So ready, Zeus? He's like, lady, that's so lame. I know it's all empty. You already ate all your kibble. So Zeus, So let's say, for example, let's say he's a bit distracted. If, let's say, I were to constantly ask him for something while he's in his own little world, I'm more than likely going to lose out on the meaning behind the skill, or I might just sound like I'm constantly blabbing but not giving tons of direction. So then your babe may not hone in when you do talk to them. Ready, Zeus? Come. Yes. So if, let's say, stationary positions were too hard, ready, Zeus? Right there. So nice little kissy noise, name recognition. Oh, good shake off, sir. His little belly shirt just kills me. So we're going to do a little find it. And then from here, we're going to warm up with some recalls from find it. So Zeus, come. Yes, nice job. So again, ready, sending him away. And I do break up his snacks into like 4 little tidbits. Ready, Zeus? Come. Yes. So I don't want to do too many of these where he gets too tired. So I'm going to see if I can get a couple little sitting positions. He says, I'm over my peanut butter snacks, I think. Poor guy. And I know he's got a sensitive tummy, so we're like limited to what we're using with him. Ready? He says, my friend's snacks smell amazing. So if I've lost him, I'm not going to keep saying the cue or trying to get his attention that way. I'm going to go a little closer and gain his attention from there. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and we're going to try for a little sitting position. I'm going to tell him to wait. See, I'm going to add a little bit of movement. If movement was too hard, I wouldn't start here. Zeus, come. Nice. If moving myself equals he also wiggles, it might be too much going on in the environment. So remember, the environment drives behavior. So a lot of times if the environment's very nice and relaxed, your babe tends to do better. If the environment is very stimulating or super distracting or really overwhelming, they tend to not do as well. Ready, Zeus? Nice. Great chicken. Nice name recognition. So we might go right into another little moment where I'm going to see if I can get another little sit from him. Zeus. Nice. Good check-in, my handsome guy. So we're going to get a little sit. Gorgeous. I'm going to tell him to wait. Oh, that was a nice burp. And then from here, Zeus, come. Gorgeous. So let's say he's doing a pretty good job stationary and coming to me from no distractions in the sense of a barrier. Then we're going to try a little bit with the real door. And obviously, doorways do tend to equal some excitement because it's to going outside. It's to going and doing something novel. It's the, in and out of a new space. So if, let's say, for example, maybe I will try this little doorway. I'll just move my curtains out of range so they're not right in the way, if I can do so. They don't want to go that way. There we go. 2 punched up. Perfect. So I'm going to move them out of range so we don't get stuck on them. I have a little clip here just for safety. We'll take that one off for now. We'll plop it over here. So here's my doorway. He's like, what are we doing, lady? So I might bring Zeusy into my space, get a little sit. He's like, I'm already exhausted. So if, let's say, I ask for something and he's not quite either understanding or he's feeling a little bit fatigued, I might try one more time. Ready, Zeus? Sit. Oh my goodness, chewing's optional. So I'm going to bring him back into my space. Might even toss a little something to get him up and moving a little bit into my bubble. I think he's just getting a little bit stagnant and stale with his snacks. Ready? Zeus, come. Good boy. He's still trying his darndest. He's just getting a little tired. So let's say, for example, we're going to try a little bit with the doorway. If your babe really cannot manage sitting down, of course, Mr. W says, where are you going without me? Is, let's say your babe cannot manage to do a sitting position because they're tired, they're overwhelmed, whatever. I might try a little bit with weight, and then I'm going to play with my doorknob, and then I'm going to feed him for not coming into the space and going towards me as I make the noise happen. So sometimes, again, remember, you might have to break down things into smaller, more attainable steps than rushing into opening the doorway, telling him to wait and see if he can hold back when the big opening is available. He might actually have to go to the restroom too, which we can do in just a sec. So again, I'm going to play with my door, and then yes to feed. Nice job. So as we're practicing, I'm just getting him to hear the door, but if he doesn't move, I feed him for that. So sometimes it could be as simple as just creating, again, those stepping stones that eventually turn into a bigger skill. So again, I'm going to tell him to wait. Oh, nice. And feed him for that. So I don't mind if he watches and seems intrigued, but if he goes to move forward, he's not going to get in trouble. We just restart it. So again, wait. Nice job. And Mr. W is like, why do you keep playing with the fencing? Nice job. So again, we're going to have him wait. Nice. And then when we want him to go ahead and, let's say we were going to make him practice coming through the threshold, you would want to have a slogan that would mean to come towards you. So typically I'd recommend his name and then a come, or his name and go ahead. You can, again, pick slogans that make sense to you guys. So we might, again, tell him to wait. I'm going to start it from the beginning where I was kind of wiggling the door. Nice, smart man. So notice how as I'm wiggling the door, he's almost starting to look to me. This is a really nice step because he's starting to figure out that, hey, if I'm holding back, the crazy snack lady gives me goodies. So I might just remind him one more time, wait. We might open the door. And then from here, I might go, Zeus, go on in. And I might toss the food in. So you will have moments where if, let's say, going in and out of a threshold is difficult, break it down into smaller, more attainable steps, and your dog might be able to understand the concept a bit better, and then you can make it more difficult or more challenging as they catch on. He says, I like this new space. Ready? Zeus is doing a good job. Nice job, handsome man. Brilliant. So, but if your babe can't handle small environmental changes, nice job, sir, then I would highly recommend to start off in a smaller dynamic. I'm just fixing your cute little belly shirt. So I would start off in a smaller dynamic or with smaller attainable steps. I know Winston says, how dare you leave without me? And then build into the big boy, big girl scale. But if they really can't manage, start in an environment that is easy and attainable. Nice job, Zeus. So, but maybe we'll give Mr. Z a little break. He maybe has to go for a little restroom moment, and then we'll rotate through some of the beauties. But definitely take a peek-see over some of the pattern games, because you may find when you're dealing with some of that over-arousal, the nice thing about the pattern games is it can really be beneficial for teenage dogs too. So we'll give Mr. Z a little break. He might have to go out for another little potty, and then we'll work some more skills with the boys and girls throughout the class. Good job, Mr. Z.